You know why? Because there's nobody else on here.
There's nobody else on.
Usually there's other people's faces,
Exactly.
not us.
This
So
is
now I'm looking at us waiting for something to happen,
Right.
but nothing's gonna happen until I do it.
Great.
Good evening and welcome to Wednesday, February 7th, Board of Education Policy Meeting. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You wouldn't say that. They have everybody have their policies ready. We're gonna start with, and you have the memo from Versio and Versio. Well. And start with policy 1120. 1120. It's budget meetings of the school district. There were no changes. They found that to be legally sufficient as written. Does anybody from the table have any questions?
Yeah, I have some suggestions on additions for it. One is I would be interested in seeing 5 business days prior to the public budget meeting, that there's a full tentative availability of the budget to be made available in an Excel, so people that want to feel that they have more transparency, that they can easily see stuff, that they have access to it prior to the meetings, could look through it and have better options for questions during the meeting. And the second thing that I would like to amend to this is to facilitate participation of the budget presentation, that it should be made available to people that are a virtual audience at least a few hours before the meeting. Because I know that we give it out during the meeting. I don't know if it's available.
I'm sorry.
The presentation that happens during a meeting, that it's available beforehand. And then the third is, I know that we made the rule that people can't ask questions virtually, but for the budget meetings, I'm hoping that we could put it in that they can virtually ask questions. Those are 3 things that I'm interested in potentially changing on the policy.
Dan, you want to speak to the first part of that?
Yeah, I can. I can speak. With regard to the presentation, it's usually on website prior.
Okay, good.
So not an issue. 5 days could be a problem in the sense that almost up to the minute before we're making changes, but you'll look at doing as soon as humanly possible. Because changes do happen, like I said, up to the last minute. You know, again, it's very small staff. You know, here we are interviewing again tonight. So it makes it difficult at times. So I don't know if a policy would be great for that, but we will be happy to put it up.
Like that's what the suggestion was, even if it's a tentative, which is going to change, but at least people see some kind of information that they can be looking at, even if it's not the most updated version at the moment.
I think 5 business days is a lot under those circumstances. And if you put out a tentative budget that far in advance, I mean, it's usually up there like agendas are on Friday. So it is usually up there in advance. It's not, it doesn't go out Tuesday afternoon. I think 5 business days is a lot because there will be a lot of changes, and Brian, you can speak to that. But if we put out something and a massive change happens, people are looking at false information and it could be decreased, and then people are starting with false information and it becomes an issue.
It could be a best effort without having to be a policy, no?
Right. It could definitely be a best effort and a venture without having to be written in policy. There's no legal requirement for it, correct?
Could it be put out in Excel format so people can compare data easier to prior years? Or other
How's it
information?
put out next?
PDF.
It's
How's it put out as a PDF?
Site or the packet, right?
We'll have to look into that.
Excel does, editable document, so.
Right, that's the problem. It can't be an editable document.
Then change numbers and.
Manipulate.
Well, I know that when we've sent documents to people they usually are like protected and stuff that you can't edit the document itself, but it gives people the ability to copy and paste if they want to.
I think we'll let, it's not something that we have to put in a policy because, again, if it can be done and whatever, that could be something that we could just look at doing moving forward. He can try to look at it, and try to make it work, try to make sure that nothing can be changed before.
I think, just a point of reference, I'm pretty sure PDF can be exported.
It depends on a bunch of things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if the document is good enough, then
I'll play with that a little bit.
I appreciate
I
it.
will make a good faith effort to, get it out as soon as possible.
I think
My only concern with it is there are some changes that we want truth and transparency. If something's, I'm making, so let's say it's $50,000. Person X might be, well, why'd you do that? It becomes a whole nother thing. So, but I will definitely make a good faith effort with Brian and Tina to get it up as soon as possible.
If our meetings are very tight together, within the 5 days will not work, because it would be editing it one day, and then it'll be closed out, actually frozen, and then, like Karen said, it'll be wrong. We'll discuss it wrong.
As far as the virtual conversation goes, I think that that's a decision to be made among the board, not something that has to be done in policy. So I think it can be brought up next week at the regular meeting and discussed. I don't think we have to put it in policy that we would do it. I mean, the board next year could determine that they don't want to be able to do it or that they do want to be able to do it. So I think maybe we put that on board privilege for next week's meeting. I mean, I know it's not 10 days, but we're all here. Are we in agreement to put that on board privilege for
Yes.
next week's meeting? Okay. You got that too?
Yeah.
So. Are there any other questions about 1120? I should have. No. You have one? Sure. She's giving me. No. I'm sorry. Are there any other questions on this one?
No.
Policy 2155 is equal opportunity employment. They have some suggestion for revision. And you'll see them in bold. If everybody has read them, does anybody have questions on the bolded portions?
No.
Watching the other two. Okay, being no questions, we'll move that on. Policy 3533 was also legally sufficient as written. That was about our insurance, liability insurance and workman's comp, and the other insurance deemed necessary by the board. Does anybody have questions on that? Oh, you need behind it. Oh. Okay, so seeing no objection, we're going to move on from 3533. Policy 4275 is staff use of laptops. They have one added suggestion. If you see where it said add safety to the acceptable use policy. Are there any questions on that? Seeing none, we'll move on. Policy 4353 and the administrative regulations for 4353. They find the policy legally sufficient as written, but there were some changes to the administrative regulations. Does anybody have any questions? It was really just about compliancy officers and stuff like that. Dates, yeah. Okay. That on? Is it a new policy, correct? Well, it's replacing an old policy regarding timeout and physical restraints for all students. Yes, don't do it. What?
Last year.
Last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And then this also has administrative regulations that go along with it. This is also based on the sample policy by NISBA and was reviewed by legal counsel. Are there any questions? That on? We have a new policy regarding conditional appointment and emergency conditional appointment and student safety. This policy is required by New York education law. Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay. Having no objections, we'll move that on. So I need a motion to move dockets 3-222 to 3-227. No, I'm sorry, to 3-228 to next week's meeting.
Second.
David and Joe. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, your motion to adjourn our policy meeting and move into a special business meeting.
Second. Meeting bites.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we're in a special business meeting. I need a motion to move docket 3-229.
So moved.
Don't forget, Tony.
Second.
Joe and Kurt. Any questions on this appointment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I need a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss personnel.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That was very fast and painless. Have a good evening, everybody. We'll see you this time next week for our regular business.